Hey everybody, it's Alex here. I got a message the other day from a friend who's been eyeing a new gaming rig but isn't sure if a laptop is actually worth the cash, especially when you start looking at those ultra-high-end specs and wonder if they'll translate into something you can actually use every day. I've been digging into a few options, ran some benchmarks, and read a ton of forum threads, so I thought I'd lay it out for you before you throw your money at the next big thing. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about what you're really buying when you pick up a machine like the 2024 Lenovo Legion Pro 5i. It's not just a collection of numbers. Intel's i9-14900HX, an RTX 4060, 64 GB of DDR5 and a 1 TB SSD. It's a combination that promises a certain kind of daily experience. That experience is a laptop that can sit on a desk for a few hours, travel with you to a friend's house for a LAN party, and still handle modern titles at high settings while you stream or edit video on the side. In other words, you're asking yourself, will this thing actually feel smooth when I'm playing, and will it still be useful when I'm not gaming? If you're the type who spends most of your free time in titles like Elden Ring, Cyberpunk 2077 or Valorant, and you also dabble in video editing or 3D modeling, the Legion Pro 5i's hardware aligns nicely with those workloads. The i9-14900HX is a 24-core beast, which means you get the kind of multi-threaded power you need for rendering or running background streaming software without hiccups. Coupled with 64 GB of DDR5, you essentially eliminate any RAM bottleneck for most creative workflows. The RTX 4060, while not a top-tier desktop card, still carries the latest Ampere architecture and can push 1080p and even 1440p gaming at high to ultra settings. In real-world terms, I've seen users post roughly 80 to 95 frames per second in Fortnite at max settings, and comfortably above 60 frames per second in Cyberpunk with ray tracing off, which is more than enough for a smooth experience on the 165Hz panel. Now, let's talk about the screen because that's where a lot of the gaming laptop conversation goes off the rails. The 16-inch anti-glare WQXGA display offers a 2560x1600 resolution, which is a step up from the typical 1080p panels you see on many competitors. The 165Hz refresh rate does a great job of smoothing out fast action, especially in shooters where every millisecond counts. The anti-glare coating, while not a full matte, does reduce reflections enough that you can game in a bright room without constantly adjusting your posture. For creative work, the extra vertical space gives you a bit more room to line up timelines or node graphs, which is a nice hidden benefit that many people overlook when they're just scanning specs. What about cooling? Lenovo's advanced cooling system isn't a vague term. It actually consists of a dual-fan setup with a vapor chamber spread across the GPU and CPU heat pipes. In practice, this means that under a sustained load, say, a 30-minute marathon in Red Dead Redemption 2, the laptop stays under 85 C according to most thermal readouts posted on tech forums. That temperature range keeps the CPU from throttling and maintains consistent frame rates. However, there is a trade-off. The fans can get noticeably loud when the system is under heavy load, reaching up to 55 dB. It's not a full-blown industrial noise, but if you're streaming in a quiet bedroom, you might want a mic with a built-in noise gate or a little extra soundproofing. The fans also cause the chassis to expand slightly, which can lead to a minor wobble if the laptop is placed on a flimsy surface. So it's something to keep in mind if you plan to use the machine on a coffee table or a thin laptop desk. Battery life is another practical factor that often gets buried under the hype. With a 99 battery, the Legion Pro 5i can push about 4 to 5 hours of light usage web browsing, office work, maybe a relaxed gaming session at low settings. If you're on the road and need to edit video or stream gameplay, expect the battery to drop to about 2 hours before you have to plug in. That's pretty standard for a laptop with a 165Hz display and a high-end CPU, but it does mean you should carry the charger if you plan any extended sessions away from a power outlet. So, who should actually buy this laptop? In my view, The sweet spot is power-hungry gamers who also need a credible workstation for creative tasks, and who are comfortable with a laptop that leans a bit on the heavier side. This model sits around 2.8 kilograms, so it's not a carry-it-everywhere device. If you're a competitive esports player who only cares about ultra-low latency, a lighter, higher refresh rate machine with a 240Hz 1080p panel might serve you better. Likewise, if your primary use is casual gaming or you're okay with a mid-range GPU, you could save a few hundred.